Good morning, everybody. Tom Nelson is my very special guest today, Thursday, January 20th, 2022. Tom is the current, hopefully I'm getting this right, Outagamie County Executive, and is a Democratic candidate running for election to the U.S. Senate to represent Wisconsin. Tom is running against Republican incumbent Ron Johnson and is among several other Democrats that are competing in a primary to be on the November ballot. So before becoming county executive, a role he has held since 2011, Tom served in the Assembly, becoming majority leader in his final term. Tom, welcome back. Good morning. Thanks for being on with us.
Good to be on. It's been too long. You look good, Ben. You look great. Why are you laughing?
You should go into politics. That's great. I love it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's the election year, so I really need to start working on votes.
That's awesome. Yeah, you were on in March, I think it was. I'd looked up this morning, March of last year. And if I recall, you had just come out with, like that week, a book. How's that book? How's the book sales going?
Oh, that's great. No, oh, wow, that's been that long. Yeah, so that was One Day Stronger. It's steady, because the focus has been on the campaign as opposed to the book. But Sure. It's doing well. We got a really good reception. I'm not sure if I mentioned this time, but it got great reviews. It was a starred review by Kirkus, and only like 4 or 5% of books get that. And so the critics loved it. The critically acclaimed. It was on for its category on Amazon. It was a bestseller.
What was the category?
Labor policy.
Well, I mean, come on. Are there really a lot of?
There's like millions.
Really?
Million. Oh my gosh! Yeah. If you go to if you go to Amazon, there's like 10 million titles or something.
Holy cow!
Yeah, there's a lot.
All right. Well, that's cool. So it's also campaigning time. I want to get into some of that stuff. I don't really have anything written down other than, just having this casual chat kind of a thing. But I did see that you were in, hold on, wrote it down. You had just completed a 72 county tour of the state in just 43 days last summer.
Right.
Holy buckets.
Yeah, so it was starting on July 31st, ending like September 10th. So it's not like I count every stop as the day, like it's beginning to end. So in other words, on July 31st, I went to 0 counties. September 15th, approximately, I had been to 72 counties.
Okay.
So we really hustle. We hustle. I mean, that's what this campaign does. Hustle.
So you actually stopped. You didn't just like, what, we're just going to drive around so we can say, like, take a picture.
Yeah, no, it's not like a vacation, right?
Okay.
It's not like National Lampoon's Vacation where you put like one foot. You go to like 4 corners. What's it? Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona. You can meet 4 states at the same time. Oh, I went to 4 states. No, it wasn't like that. I went to 4 counties, step the corner between Burnett, Polk, Sawyer, and I've been to 4 counties.
Well, you had previously served in the state assembly for, 6 years?
Yeah, 6 years, so 3
years.
terms.
That's a state assembly. Serious job. Absolutely is. Legislative jobs, very important, very serious. The campaigns for that. But this United States Senate, it says Wisconsin Senate, United States Senate, you've had to campaign in the past for the assembly. What's the biggest differences, with the exception of just scale, that you have found during your campaign now, running for what you're running, juxtaposed to what you ran for before?
Right. So I actually ran for lieutenant governor back in 2010, 11 years ago. So that was a while ago.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
Yep. So I did that. I won the nomination, but Tom Barrett and I lost to Scott Walker in 2010.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah. So that was a while ago. And I guess the difference is, the similarities are, you have to have a good message. You have to work hard. You have to demonstrate to folks that you're serious about this. This is your message. This is what you want to do, and try to get that message across. Obviously, the difference is it's a little easier to do a county executive or an assembly race because it's hand-to-hand combat, so to speak. You're knocking on doors. So when I first ran for the assembly, I knocked on like 22,000 doors. And so it's one of these cases, where, it's a lot of work, though, but you can almost literally like physically literally and figuratively move a district that, in my case, was a Republican district into the Democratic column just by sheer tenacity and grit. So it's a little more doable in that regard. So running for the Senate, you just have to be a little more creative. So, we put billboards up on highways. We do a lot of social media. We get into national news articles, state news articles, local articles. And if you give yourself enough time, in our case, 22 months, we started October of 2020. Hopefully that's enough time to get your message out. And I figure if I can't do it in 22 months, I just can't do it. So I will at least walk away from the campaign at the very worst, at the very least, saying, I gave it my all.
Yeah. With COVID being what it is, a lot of people at home maybe not going out over this time because you have been campaigning for a while. Do you think that has been specifically for you and your campaign? Has that been helping you or potentially hurting you? I mean, I suppose it may help or may hurt everyone, but I mean, you specifically, you're kind of I read a story on the Wisconsin Examiner. I don't know.
Yeah, Wisconsin Examiner, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's as a political leaning. It's the first time I've ever been there, but I just Googled your name this morning, and I saw that it was from a couple days ago, and it was like, you're the underdog, you're the little guy, as it were. I think they referenced that a couple times in there. Is this helping you, or is it hurting?
Yeah, I think it helps. I mean, I think, the underdog is the kind of candidate that Wisconsinites embrace. Russ
we can relate to
Bill Proxmire, right? Harvey Duholm, folks up in Northwest Wisconsin. I mean, there is this kind of not just progressive streak, but there's this kind of grassroots, down home, common sense candidacy, and it can come from the right or the left. In my case, of course, I'm a Democrat, but I think people embrace that. But it also comes down to how do you get to the largest audience as possible, and it's difficult in day and age, especially now where campaigns are so darn expensive. I mean, there's a fellow in the race who I think has already spent or will have spent $2.5 million on TV alone. I don't have $2.5 million. I'm just a little old pastor's kid from Outagamie County. He's the county executive. Just a lowly public servant that wants to serve his state and serve his country. So that is the big challenge. But I think, if you were to sit down, I talk to a lot of people one-on-one, there's very, very few people. I mean, more often than not, I'm moving them from someone else's column into my column or undecided into my column. So they like our message. Social media, two or three of three of the other leading candidates have spent over like $130,000, $140,000 on Facebook ads alone. I haven't spent $140,000 on Facebook. I mean, there's some weeks when my opponents will spend 20 times the amount of money on Facebook, and we still have the highest rated posts. Why? Because we've got a good message. We've built a good following. Now, if we can scale up that following to a statewide size, well, we're off the races.
Yeah. What do you mean highest rated posts?
Well, they look at how much kind of engagement, and you can get
engagement.
This.
Okay.
Engagement. So eyeballs, engagement. Watching a video, clicking like, reposting, whatever.
Yep. Totally get it. So you're obviously there's it's almost like you have two races that you're looking at. So obviously, this Ron Johnson announced that he was going to run again, even though I believe a couple years ago I think he said that he wasn't. But, it is what it is. Fine. Don't care. So that's the one, of course, you have to, a Democrat has to win, is the November election. But, you're also running against, I think it's three other opponents right now for the nomination for the Democrats in the primary. So how does that work when you campaign? Is it, Ron Johnson's the worst? Or, no, my opponents are the worst. Like, how does that work?
Well, there's a big difference, I think, between Democratic and Republican primaries. I mean, Republicans, they start going gloves off. They just do it. Yeah, they just start throwing roundhouses and, I'm used to it. I'm in Northeast Wisconsin, pretty Republican part of the state. When I've had competitive races, it's been against Republicans. My opponents, either they've not run before or they go up against Democrats. So Democratic primary, a little less, intense in that regard, though. But what we do, and I think what voters expect, is we make it very clear what the contrasts are, because there's a lot of big difference between the issues, between the candidates, and also, I believe, electability. the sheer fact that I come from a red part of the state and I've won re-election 6 times, as you mentioned before at the top of the hour or bottom of the hour, 3 as a legislator, 3 as a county executive. 1, I've got the background and experience, I think, to be a good U.S. senator, having been a good legislator, knowing how to make the government work as a county executive. But I can also point to winning tough elections, and the others really can't do that. And so I make that point very, very, very crystal clear, because as far as Democratic primary voters go, they want to win this election. So the top issue is going to be who can beat Ron Johnson. And when I'm on a one-on-one situation and I'm giving that 20-second elevator pitch, I move them. I move them from undecided or someone else's column into my column. And it kind of goes back to, how do you scale that up to a state population of over 5 million people? That's the big challenge.
So there's an attorney general race, Adam Jarchow for Republican, Adam Jarchow and Eric, I think it's Tony, I think is his last name. And I've asked Adam previously, he was on the show, like, so how do you kind of separate yourself? Because, a Republican is like, okay, I'm a Republican, likely going to vote Republican. So you kind of have to separate yourself a little bit, otherwise, right? Because Republicans are pretty much Republicans and Democrats are pretty much Democrats. But you had just brought up that obviously it's electability and the person, but the issues. Are there issues that you see that you are more either passionate about or for or maybe against, that your opponents, your Democratic opponents, your primary opponents, really don't align with you on that at all? What separates you from the other three?
I think there's a couple of things. Let me talk first about the issues and how we're approaching this campaign. There are a couple of, candidates I'm running against where their position on the issues before running for this seat are diametrically opposite to what they're at right now. And I think, let me just say on that score, that's whatever the issue might be. When you say you are for something before running for office, or you emphasize one issue over another before you run for office, and you do the opposite, okay, it's kind of like for kindergarten teachers. You can't kid a kidder. People will see through that. Right. Voters will see through that. So that's number one. I've always been consistent. I consider myself to be, a classic Wisconsin progressive populist, someone who, when they vote for an issue or try to get a service to work, you look from the standpoint of the people, not from the corporate interests, not from other elected officials. How does this make a difference with the folks on Carolyn Drive in Little Chute, where I grew up, or the farm families in Polk County, where the family homestead is from? That's how I look at issues. I focus on bread and butter economic issues because, as my dad, a former Lutheran pastor, would say, if you've missed the economic debate, you've lost the argument, which means elections are about voters. Elections are about people. How do you improve their stead in life? How do you make their life easier? And I believe one of the ways to do that is that you make sure that we have good schools, we have a good, clean environment, we have a good jobs base, a good economic base. You focus on that livability, and you get that message out. Again, you have to scale it up to a state of 5 million. If you can get that message out, you can win. So I've been very, very aggressive on farm issues. I'll tell you this. All over the state, I talk about the case of Burnett County and the siting of a 26,000 hog farm. Yeah. I've mentioned that probably in almost every county. And I bring that every county because I think it's an important issue, but I also think it affects everybody else in the state. Because what's happening in Burnett County is you're talking about a Chinese company that's coming in, trying to raise 26,000 head farm to feed the growing middle class in China. Mm-hmm. They're not coming to Wisconsin to create jobs. It's going to pollute the land. It's going to depress property values. It's going to lower the groundwater. And it's just going to be bad for us. And so I salute the townships in Burnett County who are fighting back. I think that's fantastic. Mm. What they need is a U.S. senator who's in their backyard, who comes up here to 72 county listening session tour, that understands these issues, that they know, that they can trust to go to Washington to fight for them. And so I've said before, I don't just talk about this issue when I'm in Northwest Wisconsin or Northwoods. I talk about it wherever I go because it's something that people can relate to. Everyone has an example of, like, a Smithfield Farms, some corporation that comes in there that puts the hardware store out of business, the grocery store out of business, that shuts down a paper mill because they want to drive up prices for their commodities. It's corporate power, wiping out the little guy. It happens on the countryside. It happens in the big cities. It happens in the suburbs. It happens all over Wisconsin. Those are the people I stand up for. Those are the folks that I champion. I always have, as county executive, as a state legislator, and I will as a U.S. senator as well.
We have a question here. We put good morning, Sharon and Karen. This is from Romaine Quinn. There are a lot of candidates in your race, so there are a lot of underdogs if you're not in the lead. Right now, Mandela appears to be the front runner. Question is, why are you a better candidate than Mandela? So it looks like that's more of a specific question.
Sure. Well, right now, I mean, these polls are useless. The polls are useless because it's completely a result of name recognition. Mandela's the sitting lieutenant governor. Obviously, he's the front runner. He should be the front runner. I think the fact that he's under 50% is not a good omen for him. I think the fact, by his own admission, only 50-60% of people who have a favorable opinion of him will vote for him. I think it doesn't bode well at all. So what you're seeing right now, most voters are normal people, which is they're not totally engaged in this race yet because they've got their lives to live. There's so much else going on right now. As far as how I am different, this is an example. I have not run away from the issues that I've championed. I haven't. Whether it's a Green New Deal or Medicare for All, he can't even say those words. Why? Because it's poll tested. Why? Because people out in Washington are telling him not to talk about those things. That is an example. That's an example of how you would say one thing and talk about one way before you run for office, and then completely different the other way. It's not just my observation, but I'm beginning to hear that in all corners of the state. Don't kid a kidder. People are seeing right through that. So if you want a proven progressive, if you want someone who focuses on the bread and butter issues, whether it's dealing with Smithfield Farms in Burnett County or closed paper mills in the Fox Valley, in the paper valley, I'm your guy. And it's not just what I'm talking about during the campaign right now, but you can look at my track record. 17 years of public service as a legislator and as a county executive, winning tough elections in a tough part of the state, a part of the state that determines often the outcome of the statewide races. I'm a progressive.
No, it doesn't. Not Northwest Wisconsin. Come on, we got like Washburn County got 15,000 people. Burnett's got 15,000. Rusk 15,000. Come on, that doesn't determine it.
Okay. All right. No. I actually said Northeast Wisconsin.
Northeast.
I said Northeast
okay.
Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. We're not.
But you brought up Burnett County. A few things is I think that these are bellwether counties, which means that if you're winning townships in Burnett County or Polk County, if you are resonating with folks in a Burnett County or a Polk County, you know what? That's going to be resonating in Appleton, in Madison, Milwaukee, Racine. And that's why I spend as much time as I can on the DrydenWire, because you got people who are watching this, people who are informed, people who are educated, that hopefully are hearing my message, and Easter or whatever the next holiday is, when they get together with families, they can say, yeah, I listened to that Tom Nelson. He's got the same last name as Gaylord Nelson. Must be a good guy.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they're going to bring up. Yeah, you're right about the polls, and I've thought about that because in that article that I was referencing earlier, it says where people are in polls and finance and stuff. And I was thinking, man, the race really hasn't started yet. But I was wondering why you kind of looked at it that way, or when you look at those polls, and if you are, according to polls, the underdog right now. And again, like I think how Romaine referenced that anyone who's not in the lead is, kind of the underdog.
Right.
So now how do you get that up? If there's a name recognition, you brought that up right away. That's going to be a big one. You betcha. But
timing. I think of the 2007-2008 New York Giants. Now they came to Lambeau Field for the NFC Championship. It was like the coldest game on record. They went 3 overtimes, and of course, Brett Favre in his latter years kind of rolls over. But the Giants won, and the Giants won because they were peaking at that point in the playoffs. They weren't that strong at the beginning. They were getting stronger in the middle of the season, and the season they're doing well. Now, they didn't have the kind of win record because they lost a lot of races at the beginning of the season, so they were a wild card, so they were an underdog, but the timing was just right, and they got into the Super Bowl. Same thing for me. Mandela, he can only go one direction because he's at 40% right now. Tom Nelson, 8 or 9%. There's only one direction that I can go. So these campaigns, just like the NFL, just like football, is about timing. I've got 7 months to go. Plenty of time. I like the trajectory of this campaign. We're going to win this.
Well, the Giants in that reference, and I understand analogies. In other shows, we usually get in trouble for using analogies, but I understand that part of it. I like that analogy, but also part of it, and I get the timing part. They outperformed. It was a one-day kind of a thing. Maybe they even played, they exceeded expectations, and it's like you work hard and you can do it. Is that the kind of thing that's going to take it? Because this isn't just about you working hard necessarily, or being better, or in that case, it was playing better. It still comes down to, are people going to vote for you?
Right.
So how do you get that 8%? I got one way to go, but it's not going to just, I wouldn't think, just magically happen. You got to get that up. And if so, how do you do that?
Right.
Is that part of the thing that separates you? That, first of all, I'm doing things like coming on DrydenWire and Northwest Wisconsin, Northeast Wisconsin. How do you get that up?
Well, here's an example. Alex Lasry, another one of my opponents, he has or will have spent about $2.5 million on television. He spent about $1.5 million October. I hope he's giving you guys some change. I hope he's advertising the DrydenWire, because my gosh, if you can spend $2.5 million on television, you can throw yourself a couple of some change. Come on. I mean, think about that, right? So he spent all this money November, December, all over the state. So get a load of this. Hold on. So Tom Nelson doesn't spend anything. I'm just a little old pastor's kid from the Fox Valley, public servant, just want to serve his state. Check this out. I didn't spend any money on that type of political communications. Mandela comes out with a poll 2 or 3 weeks ago. Guess what? Tom Nelson and Alex Lasry, we are tied. We're in the margin of error. Think about this. So he just lit $1.5 million on fire. He didn't learn his lesson. He's going to do that again this month and next month. Now, when people are paying attention, because voters are normal people, they're not paying attention so much right now. Some people are. I'm not trying to be offensive to the people watching this, but that's just how this rolls. I will have enough money saved. I'll have enough money saved so that when people are engaged, I can put the money up. I can put TV, I can do cable, I can do Facebook, whatever it might be, DrydenWire, you name it. That's how you win elections. And it goes back to the point. I've been in elective office for 17 years. I've won 6 races. So I know how to run races and campaigns, and I know how to win races. All right? This is a textbook case. I like to tell people that we are a first-tier campaign with a second-tier budget. I don't have all the money in the world because I don't have the name recognition of a statewide candidate. I don't have a dad who's worth $2 or $3 billion like Alex. And I don't have millions and millions of dollars like the other opponent has because they married someone who's extremely rich. Just a little old pastor's kid from Northeast Wisconsin who wants to serve his state. That's it.
My wife still reminds me that she also didn't marry someone who has a lot of money.
Oh, come on. Number one,
Hey, I have a question here. I wrote this down just because earlier, I know this isn't about your race, I don't think necessarily, but it could kind of, if they take this to a federal level. But obviously there's a lot going on right now with redistricting in Wisconsin. And again, that's more for the people running for assembly and Senate in Wisconsin. But we had Tom Tiffany on because we have our congressman on right now. It's Tom Tiffany for a monthly show. And a couple weeks ago when he was on, he talked about that it looks like Democrats, I believe it'd be Democrats anyway, we're looking to maybe take this redistricting issue out of states' hands and put that more on the federal level. So kind of 2 parts there. One, I'm sure you're following this, right? So what are your thoughts on the redistricting going on right now? Supreme Court met yesterday. And then is this something that should be in the states or, that should totally be federal level?
Well, I think, first of all, I think that this is a test case in a number of respects here at the court. This is a test case to see, is the Supreme Court a purely partisan organ? Is it a branch office of the Republican Party? Now, the Supreme Court gave very, very clear direction to Evers, to the governor, saying you need to follow these guidelines. You have to maintain, I think, the partisan makeup or whatever that indicator is when you map. So they said, okay, we'll do it. And they followed that to a T. The net difference is they made 5 or 6 assembly seats a little more competitive, which means the makeup of Democrats and Republicans in that district are closer toward the middle. Mm-hmm. Now, if this Supreme Court follows their precedent, not a precedent from 20 or 30 years ago, but from like 2 or 3 months ago, they will side with the governor saying, yes, these maps follow the parameters of what we sent forward. And then at least in that case, we're going to have 5 or 6 more competitive races. So you have 5 or 6 districts in the state where voters will have a really, a true choice. Mm-hmm. It will be an even playing field. I think that'd be very, very good for us. Now, if that doesn't happen, well, then I think we lost a big opportunity last night when the Voting Rights Act legislation failed in Washington, because that would address campaign finance. It would address gerrymandering. It would have addressed voting rights, but of course that didn't happen because of filibuster, which needs to be abolished, by the way. So I think that's what things are looking at. I think that's what you need to look at for the state race. And I think that at the federal level you asked, I think there was a big missed opportunity, unfortunately.
So, do you think this should be not in the state's hands? Was that part of that bill? Is that what you're referring to? That this really should be looked at more as a federal level?
Well, look, I mean, we've got legislators, at both the federal and state level that represent us and represent us equally. I think from my perspective, I would like to see a result wherever it comes from that is going to err on the side of the voter. That's going to give voters a true choice. It's not going to be stacking these districts with a lot of Republicans or a lot of Democrats. I mean, this is a 50-50 state, and yet there are like 62, 63 Republicans in the state assembly out of 99. Math doesn't make any sense, okay? I'm just a little old pastor's kid from the Fox Valley, but I'm doing the math there. I'm thinking, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's what I look at. I look at the bottom line. How do we make these elections more fair? How do we make sure that the voters have a true choice? That's my focus.
So put on your your fortune-telling hat here. Your crystal ball, not what you would necessarily want to have happen, but how does this end? Hopefully we'll know here in the next couple, 3 weeks, somewhere in here. How does this end in redistricting for Wisconsin? What are they going to do? I've heard the least change approach type thing.
Yeah.
But how do you think it's going to end?
Well, that's the whole thing. I think it's going to come down to whether or not the court follows its own precedent from a couple of months ago and does the least change. Because the Evers is like, okay, we don't agree with you, but we're going to follow this. And the result of that is there's going to be a few more competitive districts, which I think is a plus. Do I think it's still an obscenely gerrymandered district to try to give a partisan advantage to one particular party and to lock in an advantage for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, whatever it is? Yeah, and I think it's wrong. It'd be wrong if it was a Democratic redistricting through. But I mean, the truth of the matter is there really, in recent history, hasn't been this type of severely gerrymandered map that benefits Democrats.
So in Northwest Wisconsin, we have a lot of support for law enforcement. I do a show with Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald every week called Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy. Where are you on there was a national narrative about a year ago, defund the police and a lot of other things, a lot of media attention, and potentially or possibly rightfully so, right? Regardless of why or if that was a thing, fine. But for our people that are watching, where do you stand on law enforcement right now? Give it like the state of law enforcement in Wisconsin. Like, it's actually going really, really well. Or, yeah, we do need to make some changes here.
Well, I think, first of all, I mean, there was a couple of knuckleheads on the Minneapolis City Council that said those 3 words, defund the police, which is just absurd, okay? And a lot of Democrats lost re-election because they either didn't stand up to that or folks just bought into it. That's a bunch of phooey. I mean, if you look at what I've done as county executive, all right, we have a very strong public safety community. That's not just the sheriff, but local law enforcement, the district attorney, and also the public defender's office, health human services. I even have this department I built called the Criminal Justice Treatment Services Department that brings all stakeholders at the state and local and even the federal level, where you've got sheriffs and district attorneys, and you have health human services, you have public defenders of all political persuasions, red and blue, coming together saying, you know what, there's a better way to do this, that we can protect the health and safety, the well-being of the people of Outagamie County, do it more efficiently, get better results, and save a lot of money. And that's what we're doing. But look, I mean, if you look at my budgets for public safety, for district attorney and sheriff, the work I've done with the county board, we've been pretty supportive. You okay?
Sorry.
Was it something I said? It was something I said.
Wrong tube. Sorry. So that's interesting. What you were is that a new program? The one that you just created this or?
Yeah, we built it up. I mean, we had kind of remnants of this, like elements of this 10 years ago before I took over as county executive, but I built it into a real department. Okay, so we have a number of programs, including a veterans court, a drug treatment court, a mental health court. We have a program called evidence-based decision making, in which we develop a survey to determine whether or not a defendant is a low risk, a medium risk, or a high risk, so you don't have the incidents you had in Milwaukee and Waukesha County with the parade. We put a lot of time into that. We put a lot of time, and so we've been able to protect the safety and well-being of the community because we bring a lot of people to the table. We get good results. And I'm very proud of that. And I think these are the types of lessons that we've developed and learned at the local level that the folks in Washington and Madison could really use. And I bring that to the table because I don't think there's any other county executives who are in the U.S. Senate right now. So they're going to have someone that can say, look, this law, this allocation, this is how it works at the county level. This is how it works in terms of criminal justice. Infrastructure, schools, whatever it might be. And I think that we're going to have better laws and better policy coming out of Washington because of that.
Yep. Give me 3 other races that you're following right now. Obviously, you're very invested in yours.
Oh, goodness.
3 other races. Maybe the governor's race. Maybe that's kind of a no-brainer. But give me a couple other than that. Every once in a while, I kind of want to see where they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, the governor's race, that's big. The attorney general's race is also big, too. Unfortunately, because of the redistricting battle, there really aren't a lot of candidates and campaigns lined up at the legislative level.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to pick that out.
Yeah,
Same
everybody's
thing
waiting.
For
right.
Judicial. Right. So those are probably the 2 top races I'm looking at.
Sure.
Can't get you a third, sorry. I can keep thinking about that.
Well, we'll say your own. Fine.
There you go.
Well, there you go. When they go to vote, and I'm sure we'll have you back on before the poll or the primary. But when people do go to vote and they see your name, or right now, if I was walking down the street and someone said, "Hey Ben, what'd you do this morning?" and I said, "I had Tom Nelson on for a show." When they hear your name right now, Tom Nelson, what do you want them to think?
He works really hard. He reminds me of Bill Proxmire or Russ Feingold. I can trust him. He'll go to Washington and represent the true interests of Wisconsinites.
It's pretty good.
And up in Northwest Wisconsin,
if someone just said Ben wasn't a jerk, like okay,
well here too. But look, I mean, in Northwest Wisconsin, I think everybody in Northwest Wisconsin knows a Nelson. So hopefully the Nelsons that they know, are good people.
Oh yeah.
I should be good. I should be a good spot.
Yeah, we think so. And how do people go and find out more about you, to follow you?
They can go to my website, Nelson4, that's FORWI.com. You can go to my Ballotpedia page, my Wikipedia page.
I went there this morning to your Ballotpedia page.
We spent a lot of time on that. I want to make sure we got good information. So, yeah, a lot of information out there. The book, you mentioned the book. If you want to go check out the book, you can go to the book's website, which is onedaystrongerbook.com.
It just sounds funny. OneDayStrongerBook.com. That would.
And you can go to my cousin's bookstore in Spooner. Carol and Jamie. Yeah, talk to Carol. Yeah, talk to Carol and say, hey, I'd really like to check out the book that your little cousin wrote.
Northwind.
Yeah, sure.
Northwind
Fiber.
Book and Fiber.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I've never understood that. Like, I don't know what that is. I don't read a lot.
Ask Carol. Ask Jamie.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to.
We'll know.
Hey, any last words, any last messages you want to leave our viewers with?
Thanks for listening for the last half hour. Hope I didn't bore you. I mean, if you're listening to this right now, we're somewhat engaged. I guess I was somewhat interesting, entertaining, perhaps, but
that's the way to go. If you're not good, be entertaining. That's why. That's what I focus on. And don't worry, like 95% of the people who watch it after, because it's 8:30 in the morning. It's 9 o'clock in the morning on a work day. Who's got the time to sit and, aside from you and I, I really kind of want to know more about your county executive gig. Real quick, tell me, what is like your day there? What do you do there?
Well, I oversee about 23 departments, so I always begin my day getting on the phone and calling all the employees whose birthday it is that day. But I came on DrydenWire, so I haven't called them yet. I need to do that at 9 o'clock. I'll do it quarter after, whatever it might be. Call folks up on their anniversaries, their work anniversaries, to check things out. We've got, regular meetings with department heads. I'll call around, see how things are going, how we can be helpful. Before the pandemic, did some walk-arounds, talking to some employees. Don't do it as much because of the pandemic. Yeah. During budget season, very busy. It's a pretty sizable budget. I also spend time working with the community, making sure they know the kind of services that we are providing. One of the services we provide, I have an international airport. It's worth $700 million of economic output every single year. We support about 3,000 jobs directly and indirectly. Yeah. So I want to make sure that those stories are told and that the community knows the good work that we're doing.
Super. So that's it, huh? Just, whatever. Some days I just phone it in. It's no big deal. Hey, I want to give a shout out to, I have had the pleasure of getting to know just a little bit and communicating with two people on your team. I just want to give them a shout out. Irene and Matt have been fantastic. If they're volunteers, I don't know, take them out for lunch, and if they get paid, pay them more. They're really awesome.
I'll tell them you said that.
All right, man. Thanks so much. Any last words?
No, that's about it, though. But thanks, Ben. Appreciate your interest.
Wish you all the best in your campaign, and obviously in the election. Let's have you on before the primary, huh?
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, brother. All right. You have been watching. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Everything's going crazy. Sorry. Special thank you to my guest today, current Outagamie.
It's close enough.
Outagamie County Executive and Democratic candidate running for election to the U.S. Senate, Tom Nelson. And a reminder, Northwest Wisconsin's very own Chris Cruzy will be joining Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald and I next week for our latest Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy show. Until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching and have a blessed day.